When I was at Facebook, we used to have our leaders that were in sales and in go-to-market would always say that our competition was not Google or any other ad platform. It was actually TV. So like traditional TV, because there's trillions of dollars still spent on ads in TV and non-digital channels. So if you look at the digital marketing TAM, it's $700 billion now in 2024, and it's still growing at double digits. So what's happening? Well, lots of people are shifting their consumer behavior. Like you're still seeing e-com grow at double digits. People are moving out of retail and into online. They're shopping more online. More people are liking the effects of like digital marketing, being able to put your money in and see what happens to it. So you're seeing more and more and more budget shift over to digital channels, which is only making it more expensive and more time consuming to operate.
So Connor, thanks for coming in. Maybe just to start, could you tell us a little bit more about Disco's product offering, what's unique about the company, what you are offering to e-commerce brands and all brands that maybe they're not getting on other advertising channels?
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to most digital brands, they're spending 90 to 100% of their time optimizing Meta and their Meta advertising. And what Disco offers is a new place to acquire customers and get in front of customers that is actually within the checkout of those brands. So right after you check out on one brand, so like say you're checking out on Olukai, after you check out and you get to that post-purchase page, we make recommendations to you of other complementary brands that you might like. So it's independent brands all working together in this network of about 1,000 brands, and we make recommendations on their page, in email, and soon to be many other places.
Awesome. And what made you want to start the company? What did you learn at your previous companies that made you think that Disco was such a great idea?
Yeah, so I spent most of my career in advertising, digital advertising, and sort of at the frontier of when digital advertising was taking off. So I started at Facebook in 2013 and was there for 6 years in a bunch of different roles. While I was there, I saw a bunch of direct-to-consumer brands that were non-existent really at the time coming onto Facebook and bidding against the large incumbents and gaining significant market share. So like the example I like to use is actually a Disco customer today is Dollar Shave Club. Dollar Shave Club went on to Facebook, spent a bunch of money, and acquired almost 10% of Gillette's market share just by spending money on Facebook. So there's an arbitrage moment there that happened for several years. And today, now there's thousands of these brands that have gone onto Facebook and done the same playbook. So while I was there, I learned a lot about recommendations, what made Facebook, dynamic ads, retargeting, a lot of solutions that Facebook has built to curate towards the e-commerce sector. And then I left in 2018 and joined Affirm. And while I was at Affirm, I was actually learning a lot more about the actual e-com brands themselves. So how they think about their website, the traffic that they're driving to their website, the ways that they think as operators. And I put together the thought that there's all these independent brands like Peloton and Nectar mattresses and all these different brands that exist within the Shopify ecosystem that Affirm is serving that sell maybe 1 to 2 products. But they're competing against each other on the Facebook algorithm within the Facebook ads auction. So the genesis of the idea of Disco was, hey, let's get the gang together. Let's get all these brands working together to drive growth, efficient growth. And what I did is I started talking to brands about what that could look like. And we landed like through that exercise on post-purchase and found out that post-purchase was actually a place where brands weren't really doing much. Like it's really high intent customer. They just bought something, but there's nothing going on these pages. All it says is, thank you, Niki, for your order. And that's that. So we decided like that was the first place that we were going to go and the first place we were going to test it. And that's what made me start the company.
Amazing. So maybe to make the product more real, what's a story that you've heard from your customers about the impact that Disco is driving for them?
Yeah, I love this question because we get to hear these things all of the time from all of our brands. Like we work with so many brands that are seeing success with Disco, whether that be us acquiring them new customers. One from a brand that just joined a few weeks ago that I'm really excited about is Olukai. Do you know the flip-flop company? Yeah, the flip-flop company. So Olukai joined the network a month ago, 2 months ago, and they've been comparing like the customers that we're driving them versus the customers that Facebook and other channels are driving for them. And we find this very consistently, that the shoppers within the Disco network are high income, most likely to buy other products. And that actually has proven very true for them. They see a 250% increase on Disco LTV versus the LTV of their standard shopper. So that means that customers that are coming from Disco are spending about $250, and their standard customers are spending $100 per order. So I think it speaks to the power of the shopper network that we're building in addition to the brand network. Like, obviously, you're building a brand network of all these individual brands that are working together. But what's really powerful about that is the customers behind the screen that are engaging with the Disco feed, and them actually going on to buy from these brands and showing the value of not only driving that new customer, but the fact that that customer is more valuable gets me super excited about all the things we can do in the future.
Yeah. So there's some AI angle to this business where you guys are seeing who the customer is, maybe some of their purchase history, some of what they're buying right then in that moment. And you are looking across your brand network of customers and saying, okay, how can we use AI to optimize the amount of money this person essentially is spending by showing them the right products post-purchase? So maybe in the Olukai example, it's, all right, this person maybe lives in Southern California or Hawaii, or maybe they're buying some bathing suits and it seems like they're going on a trip with their family to some beach vacation or something like that. They just bought 2 kids' bathing suits, a bathing suit for themselves. This person's probably going to be in the market for flip-flops. Let's hit them with that flip-flop advertisement right after. And they've already got their credit card out. They've already got, they're already logged in, everything. And so for them, it's like, yeah, I was going to buy flip-flops anyways. These flip-flops really look awesome. Maybe like this is what we should be buying right now.
Yeah, 100%. That is, I couldn't have explained it better of like how the algorithm actually works. So the way that it works is we have what we call the Disco graph, which is about 100 million e-commerce shopper profiles that exist across our brand network. So at this point, we have over 1,000 brands. We have 100 million US e-commerce shopper profiles, name, email address, the things that they've bought across the network. And then we have about $50 billion worth of transactional data, like cart data, that is associated with that. So we take that, we blend that together with the things that were in checkout. So like whatever it is that they just bought, the AOV of the specific purchase and other qualifying attributes. And then we mix that together with all of the real-time signal that we're receiving on a daily basis from the hundreds of thousands of people that are seeing the Disco feed. Mix all of that together, and that's what creates the recommendation and the algorithm. And I would say, like, if you look at corollaries for AI in the ecosystem, like AI originated within the ads space, right? So like Facebook wasn't calling it AI. They were just saying like ranking and modeling and all this stuff. But now, like, since it's in the zeitgeist moment, they're talking about their billions of dollars in investments in AI. They're able to spin out Llama 3 like that because they're already using all these tools internally to make recommendations. So a huge part of what makes Disco work is the recommendation engine, is making better recommendations. And when we look at the growth levers of our business, it's both how many times people are seeing it and all the places we can show it, and how much money we can make every single time we make one of those recommendations. That is primarily driven by AI and ML investments that we make. Like, if we can make better recommendations, test and learn, we can increase monetization by a lot just by investing in that area.
Yep. It's awesome. And one of the other things I love about Disco is the network effects within specific, and how kind of as you get more customers within a specific vertical, you continue to do better within that vertical, like your ad effectiveness improves. So maybe, this is kind of a question around how you decide to curate which brands come onto the platform. Maybe we can use like the baby category as an example. Like, can you just tell us a little bit about how aggregating a bunch of the top baby brands has led to better performance for baby products over time?
I love that you brought up baby, because baby is like the perfect example of having all of the things happening at one time.
Yeah, we both have young families. We know how much your baby stuff you're buying every day.
You're spending a lot of time and energy figuring out what to buy. So every single time you're checking out on one of these independent brands, you're like in a perfect mindset of, I also need other things for my baby. This is great. Thank you for providing me a recommendation of the diapers I should use, of the bottles we should use. So baby's a perfect example of a network effect that's happened. So within the baby category, we have Happiest Baby, which makes the snoo. We have Coterie, which makes like really, really great diapers. We have Baby Brezza, which just joined yesterday. Like we have all of the brands that are all complementary with one another.
Yeah, all of these are things that I have in my house right now.
Exactly. So when you're thinking about the shopper and like that mindset, like they're looking for recommendations. When they buy from Nana independently and they only just bought a camera, it's a perfect place to make a recommendation for something else that you might need. So we see the behavior and the uptick within that space really, really strongly. Other categories that like kill it are beauty. Like if you're buying one specific beauty product, you probably also need a face wash. There's so many corollaries for products that are really, really complementary that work well together. And some of them make a lot of sense and some of them don't.
Yeah, for sure. So, so tell us about a little bit more about what's coming for the Disco product. Like what are other ways that you are planning to grow your footprint for brands, get access to shoppers in different places, whether it's different platforms? Can you just talk about what the next like 3 to 5 years looks like for Disco?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we have basically two growth levers. We have reach, which is Disco feed. We measure it via Disco feed loads, the amount of times we make a recommendation.
So that's basically the number of times that people see
exactly
Disco's ads anywhere they are.
Exactly. Yeah, okay. So like we have to grow that, and then alongside that, we have to grow RPL, which is the revenue per time that loads. So all of our investments in reach are going to be like through a few different pillars. The first is we're going to increase our footprint among the brands themselves because brands have a lot of other places that they're making recommendations. So right now we're on post-purchase and email. There's the opportunity for us to expand into the SMS, like the text messages that they're sending. There's an opportunity for us to enter into the reviews that they're sending. There's an opportunity for us to potentially enter into the returns flows that they're sending. There's a lot of additional touch points that live just directly within the brands. Outside of that, there's other post-checkout environments. There's other places that exist across the internet. And then the third is sort of like, it's a little bit more abstract, but we're starting to see some interesting conversations happening, which is essentially we have a ton of demand. We represent about $6 billion worth of digital advertising demand within our network. We can't serve it all, but there's other networks that have the opposite problem to us. They have a ton of reach, a ton of distribution, but they're not able to effectively monetize because they can't build relationships directly with the thousands of customers that we have.
So they have a lot of places to put the ads, but they don't have people to actually buy the ad space.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So we are working with a few companies right now. We're working with one company that in particular is very interested in getting access to the e-com demand that we represent. And that's one of many examples. Like we worked with Wonderkin last year to tap into some of their programmatic ad placements that exists on different publishers across the internet so that we can provide that. And what we found is that these larger companies don't want to build mid-market sales teams. It's not effective or efficient for them. So we think that we could play a really big role in 3 to 5 years of being a conduit for all of these new ad channels that are coming on, where brands don't have the headspace to control them or manage them. So another good example of that would be Uber. Like Uber's just built an ads product. There's a bunch of new ads products that are coming online and they don't have the time or the energy to be able to reach out to the demand. Yeah. So it's probably a good time right now to talk about, on this topic of Uber, just the rise of retail media networks. This is like, at least for, I think, a lot of people that aren't as plugged into the ad ecosystem, a relatively new word, or a new phrase. But it's a very large and growing part of the ad ecosystem. I mean, you hear about Uber's ad business growing super fast. Obviously, Amazon, Walmart, a lot of these companies building up their ads, Instacart, a lot of these companies building up their ads business internally. Can you maybe just talk about what a retail media network is? And, you guys are kind of started the business company almost building a retail media network on top of Shopify, which is really exciting. And that's one of the largest platforms and largest e-commerce companies in the whole world that doesn't have its own retail media network. So I think it's just important to talk a little bit more about retail media networks and how they're growing. Totally. I mean, so when you are shopping on Amazon and you see a recommendation that's like both a recommendation and an ad, That's essentially retail media. So you're able to add it to cart really easily, able to check out really easily, and it's part of your standard flow in the way that you check out. Same thing for Instacart. If you're trying to add, if you're getting Kerrygold butter, it's probably an ad that's paid for by them so that they can be in.
And that's it shows it up on the top and it says sponsored.
Exactly.
That's retail
exactly.
media.
Exactly. So the reason why retail media networks work really well is because they're within a shopping environment already. So you're not trying to create intent. The intent is already there. You're on Amazon, you're on Instacart, you're buying something. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the same intent that we tap into within Disco, is we're right there in the checkout flow. So when your highest intent, like thinking about buying stuff, have your credit card out, like you said, those are the best places to hit people with advertisements or upsell opportunities or cross-sell opportunities. Outside of that, I would say, like, just to nod to how big this business is becoming. If you look at the profitability and the growth of some of these businesses, like Instacart has about 10 million users. It's not super used, yet they're going to do almost $1 billion in advertising this year, and that only started 3 years ago. So the growth rates are insane, and if it works for the brands, they'll continue to invest in it. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing kind of like a lot of businesses understand that they have captive attention of users, and they want to use that captive attention to get them to buy other things so that they can tap into acquisition budgets and tap into advertising budgets. And it's a really, really strong business. Yeah. The margins are insane. Like, they're really, really strong margins. They don't cost very much to serve. That's why when you look at Facebook growing at double digits still at a $38 billion quarter, it's incredible. And businesses want to tap into that. So I think that you're seeing a lot of ad talent go to like tons of different companies that traditionally haven't had ads businesses, and they're starting to build really big ads businesses. I mean, even Amazon, most of their profitability comes from their ad sector, and it's still growing at an unbelievable clip.
It's unbelievable. And like, can you maybe talk about just so obviously like Amazon and Google and Meta take up a lot of the ad budget.
Yeah.
What is happening on those platforms that is making independent brands or all brands start to think about alternative channels like a Disco?
I follow a lot of people on Twitter that spend all day, or X, that spend all day within their ads manager, which is Facebook's tool for buying ads. And it's a nightmare. It's truly, like, we feel so much empathy for our customers that have to spend such an amount of effort turning on and turning off ad sets to make sure that they're not burning through $100,000 in a day because Facebook's decided to roll out a test. So in the macro, I would say it's iOS 15, like iOS 14, really. Apple putting a wrench in all the targetable behavior and signal that Facebook can ingest to make recommendations. And then it's demand, like the amount of demand that has flooded the ecosystem. And it's not demand from direct-to-consumer brands itself that is causing the price to go up, because it's actually a pretty small part of the overall ad, like it's $38 billion. It's the larger companies now coming into Facebook and starting to spend more aggressively because it's working for them. So if you have Amazon spending, who knows, like $1 billion a year on Facebook, it's obviously going to make it a lot more expensive for some of these direct-to-consumer brands to bid effectively and actually see results on the platform. Mm-hmm. And so you have that. You have the macro that's just not working as well. And then you have the micro, which is that Facebook generally does not care about its direct-to-consumer brand customers. So they're not getting the level of customer support that they believe they deserve. They're spending millions of dollars a year. They don't have anyone they can talk to. They don't have anyone they can lean on. It's like, you can't even get a phone number unless you spend a specific amount of money. So all of those things combined, I think there's a radical urgency to test new channels. And I think that's why we at Disco have about a 50% close rate after we take a conversation. And we're still seeing a lot of success on cold outreach, which a lot of companies have said they're not because of everything happening with AI and all the bombardment. And the reason why is because everyone is looking for a new acquisition channel and a new place that they can deploy even a small amount of budget. So I would say we're riding that in a big way, and we see that every day in our go-to-market.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the trends in digital marketing, retail media networks, AI's impact, all that good stuff. If you look another 5 years into the future, what does digital media or digital ad spend, retail media networks look like to you? What's the same as today? what are the big differences?
Yeah, when I was at Facebook, we used to have our leaders that were in sales and in go-to-market would always say that our competition was not Google or any other ad platform. It was actually TV. So like traditional TV, because there's trillions of dollars still spent on ads in TV and non-digital channels. So if you look at the digital marketing TAM, it's $700 billion now in 2024, and it's still growing at double digits. So what's happening? Well, lots of people are shifting their consumer behavior. Like you're still seeing e-com grow at double digits. People are moving out of retail and into online. They're shopping more online. More people are liking the effects of like digital marketing, being able to put your money in and see what happens to it. So you're seeing more and more and more budget shift over to digital channels, which is only making it more expensive and more time consuming to operate. So on the digital media landscape, I think that there will continue to be very successful retail media networks that are built that will start to garner a lot of that demand, and will be able to grow those businesses really effectively. On the brands that we serve, I think that those brands are going to figure out the right mix of digital advertising avenues that exist, say across TikTok Shop, Snap, Us, all of the other channels that are coming out of that are just coming out, where they can actually diversify their media spend effectively and start to drive the outcomes that they're looking at. For Disco, I want that to be a major part of that media mix.
Yeah.
So like what we're trying to build is an alternative. Like we're not going to we don't look at ourselves as a competitor either. We believe that like tides rise all ships. When you're in a $700 billion market, growing double digits, like there's room for everyone. It's not a winner take all type of environment. There's so much more money moving into the ecosystem, and like we want to be right there at the center of where the customer meets where the brand meets the shopper. So we're going to continue to invest in growing our reach and our throughput.
So tell us a little bit more about your relationship with Shopify. They're an investor in the company. They're also a board observer. I know you have a special relationship with them, and obviously the Shopify ecosystem is huge, and most of your brands are Shopify brands. So can you tell us a little bit about that relationship and how it benefits you as a company?
Yeah, I mean, I think Shopify's been an investor in Disco since the seed round, so we have a really deep relationship with them. We get to talk to their product folks before things roll out. We play a role in some of the things that get rolled out. So we have been able to get really deep with their teams and be ahead of their roadmap in a lot of ways. I would say the opportunity that exists within Shopify, though, is what's even more exciting, which is the fact that Shopify has collectively just about as much web traffic as Amazon. Yet Shopify has no ads business that exists across, other than in the Shop app. They don't have an ads business that exists across all of the brands. And the reason why is because it's really hard to stitch them all together. It's kind of challenging because they're actually the brand's website, not Shopify's website. So what's exciting to me is if you look at Amazon's ads business, it's tens of billions of dollars a year in revenue. That opportunity exists within the Shopify ecosystem. It's hard, it takes a lot of time, but it's there, and it's what we're slowly capturing over time. So I'm really excited about the progress we've made just by tapping into that specific TAM, but I think that there's even bigger opportunity outside of Shopify. So we're launching Salesforce Commerce Cloud later this year. We're going to be going to like other websites that exist, as I mentioned, in other types of checkout environments. I think there's a lot of green, open sky for us to grow in a bunch of different areas.
Wonderful. And maybe tell us just a little bit about Disco's scale, number of customers, names of some customers, just so folks get a sense of kind of the traction you're getting and how big the business already is.
Yeah, I mean, we work with about 1,000 brands in a bunch of different categories. So Ilia, True Classic, Olukai, Dagny Dover, Dr. Squatch, Kosas, Caraway, Sol de Janeiro, Bobby, Tubby Todd. Like we have so many brands in so many categories. Just in the ones I listed off, we're talking beauty, menswear, men's grooming, like all the different areas. So I would say like we have now built a very, very robust brand network and we're serving many customers that are doing over $100 million in GMV, which is very different from last year or the year before. We're starting to really understand our sales cycle and making big strides into like the larger brands within the ecosystem. Within that brand network, it's about, we see millions of shoppers every month. it represents about $50 billion in overall cumulative GMV within the network. And then us ourselves, we're driving double-digit millions of dollars a year in revenue for our brand network today, just through the existing product suite.
Connor, thanks so much for coming to visit us at the Felicis office today. It's awesome to have you. And I'm really glad that you're getting a chance to tell the Disco story, because it's a very unique business in a huge and growing market. So thank you.
Thanks, Niki. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Sweet.